Hi, my name is Bente, I'm the Norse Witch, and what I want to talk about today is 5 things that I love about Norse paganism, completely disregarding the fact that my ancestors would have practiced it. This actually stems from a comment that I got quite some time ago from a subscriber, and they asked me why I decided to practice Norse paganism, why I feel at home in Norse paganism, but disregarding the fact that my ancestors would have practiced it. If you are accustomed to my channel, then you probably know that I am from the border to Denmark, a part from Germany that has been Danish for a long time. I have a lot of Danish ancestry, a little bit also from Norway and Sweden apparently. So, of course, a lot of people might think that that is the sole reason why I practice Norse paganism. Because let's be honest, nowadays, especially when it comes to Norse paganism, there is a lot of talk about ancestry and DNA tests, and I kind of thought it would make sense to turn this into a video to also kind of show that picking a religion, especially when it's a reconstructed religion, doesn't have to be about your ancestry, it doesn't have to be about where you're from. As you know, I am a big advocate for inclusive heathenry. In my opinion, everyone who is respectful towards Norse paganism is allowed to practice it. And it doesn't have to be about your ancestry. So if you are Black, for example, and you want to practice Norse paganism and you have 0 Scandinavian ancestry, that doesn't fucking matter, because there is so much more to Norse paganism than just it being a religion of your forefathers and foremothers and forepeople. So, with that being said, let's get into that. I will tell you 5 reasons why I love Norse paganism that have literally nothing to do with my ancestors. Alrighty, so first of all, one of the first things that I quickly realized when I started doing a little bit of research on the Norse gods was that the gods are very imperfect. And I personally really like that. I feel like the Norse gods are very human. They are not seen as all perfect, almighty entities. Not at all. If you read their stories, they are very imperfect, they make mistakes, some of their mistakes are very fucked up. I mean, of course, you have to see it from a historical perspective, so a lot of things that would have been rather normal up until the Viking Age nowadays are not seen as normal at all. So of course you have to see it from a historical perspective, but still, even back, let's say in the Viking Age or also prior to the Viking Age, the gods would not have been looked at as perfect beings. They are definitely not. In a lot of the stories you can see that they have imperfections, that they have flaws, that there are things that they cannot do, that they have things that they need to learn from each other. So they are just not perfect. And especially as someone who, of course, comes from a primarily Christian country, or at least I think nowadays there are more atheists and agnostics in Germany than there are Christians. Still, our past was very Christian. So coming from a country like this and having been brought up with a lot of Christianity around me, I mean, in Christianity, God is seen as like almighty and perfect and blah blah blah, even though if you read the stories you very quickly see that the Christian God is very much not perfect. But yeah, when I read all of the stories about the gods and the goddesses for the first time, and I realized that they are not perfect, that they are very flawed, they are not almighty also, that just made me feel very at home with them, because I felt like that made them very human and kind of put us on the same eye level. I kind of feel like the Norse gods, while yes, we do venerate them, we do worship them, we are still more on eye level with them than in other religions. I like being kind of on eye level with the gods. When I venerate them and when I worship them and when I ask them for things, it's not necessarily because I think that they can give me anything I want or because I think that they can do anything. It's because I know that they have specific things that they are better at than me. It's the same thing as when I would approach a friend for help, because I know that they are better at woodworking, for example. I need someone to help me with building something from wood. And I know I have a friend who is very good at woodworking, then I would ask them. Not because I think that they are perfect or because I think that they are better than me, like they have a higher standing than I do, but because I know that they can do things that I cannot do. And I approach it the same way with the Norse gods, and that works very well. Another thing that I adore about Norse paganism is how animistic it is, and that even though sometimes, especially in some books, it kind of seems like there is a big focus on the deities, there's actually not that big of a focus on deities, because if you do your research, then you realize how important other types of spirits were to the Norse people or to the pre-Christian Scandinavian people. It is very, very animistic. You don't just venerate gods, you are venerating your ancestors, you are venerating the land and local spirits around you. There are so many different kinds of spirits that we believe in and that we do venerate, especially land and local spirits, and the ancestors are very, very important. And elves, if you have them around you, if you happen to stumble upon an elf. So this animistic background is just amazing. I really, really like that. I don't think I would feel very at home in a religion that only really believes in deities and nothing else. I think that wouldn't work for me because I am such an animist, and also because this animistic approach really ties in with my other practices, with my witchcraft practice, for example, because my witchcraft practice is also very, very, very animistic. So these two just work really well together. It also ties in so well because my craft has become very, very bioregional. So I have basically two reasons to work with land and local spirits. One, because I am a heathen and that's a very important part of heathenry, but also because I am actually actively working with these spirits in my bioregional magical practice. That just feels great. I think I would really suffer if I practiced a religion that did not work with my magical practice. I think that if those two would clash, I wouldn't be able to practice one of them. I would have to abandon one of them. And talking about going well with each other, that is actually a separate point that I wanted to make, because I came first to witchcraft or to my magical practice and I got into religion later on. Again, it is very, very important to me that my religion ties in with my witchcraft practice and nowadays with my trolldom practice. And that is so much the case because if you look at trolldom, it does have a lot of Christian elements. So if you are Christian, you can very, very well practice trolldom. But it also retained a lot of heathen elements. It all very much clicks with each other. It's kind of like a puzzle of tiny little pieces, and I can put them together to form my life, and it just works. So on one side I have my religious practice with heathenry, but that ties very much into my trolldom practice because, again, trolldom incorporates the Norse gods. So if you're already venerating them and worshipping them, then that makes a lot of sense. Trolldom also is very, very animistic, works a lot with land and local spirits, again, because it retained that from pre-Christian times. And you can really clearly see that. And that, again, ties in with my witchcraft practice and my bioregional craft. So all of these work with each other and are very well integrated. That is very, very important, and that is why right now I feel very at home in general in my practice. It's not like I have this one thing here, this religious practice, and then this magical practice there, and they are separate. No, they are all, for me, the same thing. And that feels very good and very organic. Another thing that I want to highlight is kind of a blessing and a curse, because there is no heathen Bible. We don't have a text that we have to follow. There is no such thing. There is a big corpus of literary sources that are more or less accurate, because a lot of them were written down by Christians. That basically leaves a lot of wriggle room for intuitive approaches to things, that leaves a lot of room for coming up with your own solution and your own practices. I personally really like that. As I already said, it is kind of a blessing and a curse, because sometimes it would be very convenient if there was a prayer that I could just use, because I know it has been used and I can just continue using it. It is just not necessarily an easy religion to practice. There is a reason why it's called the religion of homework. It's not like you can just say, all right, I will get into Norse paganism, I will buy this heathen Bible, and then I will practice, and I will know exactly what I'm doing. While there are a lot of Heathenry 101 books, and just beginner's guides and books like that, you still have to do a lot of research, and that can be quite challenging for some people, but I personally really like that. I kind of like to look at things from a pre-Christian Scandinavian perspective, but then also from a more modern, more contemporary folkloric perspective. So I can tie these in with each other again from the perspective of trolldom, but then also of pre-Christian Scandinavian religion and magic. So doing this research is extremely fun to me personally. But even if I'm doing that research, there's always this thought that I will never know exactly what I have to do. I will never know exactly how things were done. So I have to come up with my own solutions to things, with my own approaches to things. And yeah, that gives you a lot of freedom. There is, of course, these specific cornerstones that are like a part of heathenry that usually most people would agree with. But apart from these big cornerstones, there is a lot of freedom to explore your own spirituality, because in the end, this is a religion that has to work for you, because you're not practicing it for anyone else but yourself. You can take all of this free space and fill it with whatever you want. And yeah, I like having this freedom. I really like that. I am a very intuitive person. I don't really like when people tell me what to do, and in heathenry, nobody can really tell you what to do exactly. So I just really like that. And wow, it's getting bright. I am a ghost. Well, we only have 1 point left, so it will be fine. I mean, I like when the sun comes out, but for filming, it's really a struggle. Everything else is black, and then there's me. All right, but let's get into the last point. The last thing about heathenry that I really, really love is how low energy it is. I'm actually purposefully disregarding the research aspect here, because you can do this much research or you can do that much research. I'm a person who does a lot of research simply because I like doing it, but you can also get away with doing less research. It's fine. I just personally have to do a lot of research because I'm a person who talks about it on the internet and I don't want to misrepresent things. But if you're just practicing for yourself, it's fine. You don't have to do a PhD on heathenry. So I'm disregarding the research aspect, but when we look at the practical aspect, I kind of feel like heathenry is very low energy, very low stakes. It is some regular bigger rituals, sure, but apart from that, because there is so much freedom about what you have to do, what you should do, what you can do, because there is so much freedom, you can really integrate it with your everyday life. And because there are no rules, it's not like someone can force you to do something and tell you, if you're not doing this, then you are not a heathen. That's not a thing. So you can integrate it in your life however you want. So for me, it is usually more low energy things that are easily integrated into my everyday life. And for some people, this will maybe look different. Some people might like practicing or performing very big rituals every single weekend. That's not how I personally do it, but the fact that you can do it this or that way makes it very low energy, makes it very, very approachable for different kinds of people. There are people with more or less spoons, with more or less energy, and they can't do as much as other people can. And I feel like with Norse paganism, you can practice it no matter what your life situation is. It doesn't really matter if you're doing big rituals every single weekend or if you're doing big rituals every 3 months. It's usually fine to do it every 3 months. And yeah, I really like that. You can do it in a very low energy way. It's not like you have to go to church every Sunday, and if you don't do that, you are being scolded or something, or there will be a priest who will piss you off because you didn't come to church this Sunday. You are responsible for your own practice, and that way you can do it however you like, but also however you were able to do it. That being said, those are 5 things that I love about heathenry, 5 reasons why I practice it, 5 reasons why I feel very, very at home in it. I hope this was in some way interesting to you. Maybe this got you interested into heathenry. That would be cool. If you like this video, then make sure to give it a thumbs up and ring the bell down below so that you're notified whenever I upload a new video. Make sure to check out my other socials, and in case you want to support this channel, then maybe check out my Patreon or my YouTube membership. And I will see you, hopefully, in another video. Bye!